Release Anaheim Street. Troubles in the Sepulveda Path, the 405 South Getty to Moraga. Looks like all traffic lanes are stopped as they try to clear a wreck. We're loaded up as far back as Victory.
It's your last chance to shop July 4 savings at Lowe's. Right now, get up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 7/12. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
DeMaurice Smith, president of the National Football League Players Association, is calling for the NFL to get rid of the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was implemented 20 years ago with the intent of improving diversity hiring in the NFL, specifically black head coaches. Smith called the Rooney Rule a failure. When the NFL implemented the Rooney Rule in 2003, the league had 2 black head coaches. 20 years later, only 3 of the league's 32 teams have a black head coach entering the 2023 season. Francis Tiafoe, the only black American male competing at Wimbledon, has a second-round match this morning with Dominic Stricker of Switzerland. The 25-year-old Tiafoe is ranked 10th in the world. He's trying to win his first Grand Slam tennis major. The Dodgers wrap up their 4-game series with Pittsburgh tonight. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Living my life like it's golden. Yep, that's what we do around here. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, and you're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show here on KBLA Talk 1580. Hope you all are having a great day. We are certainly bringing the heat with you. Really, some pretty inspiring voices we've been talking to all morning, including Dr. David Johns, National Black Justice Coalition's Executive Director, as well as Michael Singleton, host of the Michael Singleton Show on Sirius XM. We also had a chance to chit-chat with the Fonz. I call them Fonz now because we're friends. But I'm talking about the co-founder of Spill. That's right. We talked to Alfonso Terrell just earlier this morning about the work that he's leading there. And this hour, we're going to talk to another demonstration of Black excellence personified. But I want to remind you all, I'm in touch. You be in touch. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. That's DrNiiQuartelai. But shortcut, if you just search Dr. Nii, boom, bam, boom. Dr. Nii-Quartelai pops right on up. I also want to encourage folks to check out the Outfest Los Angeles Film Festival, where just in a few days, July 13th to the 23rd, we're going to be centering the voices of filmmakers that are a part of the Black community, part of the LGBTQ community. In fact, there are nearly a dozen Black films that will be featured at the festival, and you don't want to miss it. And so go to outfest.org/attend to buy your tickets. Buy your tickets. Check it out. We got to support the folks that are in the arena doing the heavy lifting when it comes to culture change, when it comes to putting the lived experiences and the rich diversity of our families and our communities on the silver screen. And so be sure to check that out. I'm a proud board member of Outfest for all of those reasons and more. I also would be remiss if I didn't share at least one headline with you all that has my mind, racing. And it's around the Rooney Rule in the NFL. It's safe for now. This, according to a USA Today headline. The Rooney Rule is an NFL institution, but for how much longer? A short time after the Supreme Court gutted affirmative action in college admissions, NFL senior leadership sent a remarkable letter obtained by USA Today Sports to all league employees, reiterating the league's commitment to having a diverse workforce. In the letter apparently was something fascinating. It said that, quotes, in light of public interest in today's Supreme Court decision and possible speculation about their scope and application in other business settings, we want to be clear about the NFL's commitment. Our dedication to the fundamental principle of diversity, equity, and inclusion remains unchanged. We will not pause in pursuing our policies and programs that are designed to create a level playing field to ensure that diverse voices are heard and respected, and to hire, promote, and develop leaders who represent the full spectrum of America. Now, let me just say, I was pleasantly surprised to see that. It wasn't too long ago that we saw our brother Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, really shining a light on the league's double talk at best on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Since then, there has certainly been some change in terms of the performers during the Super Bowl, and some change in terms of, I think Jay-Z is now a senior advisor to the NFL. But in terms of that structural change, that culture change, it's really, 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 really hard. The jury is still out. And so a lot of folks, reading these tea leaves and more. But to help us dig into this and so much more, I'm really excited to welcome Dr. Ravi Perry. He's a professor of political science at the Mecca, Howard University. He's going to be joining me to share his thoughts on last week's SCOTUS decision and to discuss the implications that the affirmative action decision, among other decisions, has for HBCUs moving forward. You just heard in the last hour, Michael Singleton, a proud alum of Morehouse College, talk about how the decision could very well be a boon for HBCUs like Morehouse. We're going to get Dr. Ravi Perry's take when we come forward. You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
We've got a lot to talk about. Good thing we've got 3 hours. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Don't settle for bumps, ingrowns, and itch due to dry skin. Venus for Pubic Hair and Skin is here with the only razor and regimen specifically designed for your pubic area, featuring a razor with a patented irritation defense bar and skincare regimen that is dermatologist and gynecologist tested. Venus helps protect your pubic skin from shave irritation. Visit GilletteVenus.com to learn more about our full regimen of products.
Want my secret for how to prep for summer getaways and get-togethers and get everything for less? Get to Kohl's. I just went and saved an extra 20% on sunny day essentials, like tees for my husband for $9.99, an adorable sport for my daughter, plus all the grilling tools we needed for a great barbecue. So get to Kohl's and save on cool finds for hot days. You'll thank me later. Select styles, 20% offer ends July 9. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh, say, can you see by the blood in the streets that this place doesn't smile on you, colored child, whose blood built this land with sweat and their hands. But you'll die in this place, and your memory erased. Oh, say, does this truth hold any weight? This is not the land of the free, but the home of the slave.
You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show here on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for our brother Tavis. And what you were just listening to was Jill Scott. Jill Scott performed at the Essence Festival, and she performed might I say, sort of her rendition of a national anthem that really sort of speaks to the uh, the experiences that too many folks in this country continue to have, right? And so she offered, sort of a different take on the anthem, and you could hear the thunderous applause at Essence Festival. We're joined now by Dr. Ravi Perry, who's a professor of political science at the Mecca, Howard University. He joins me here to share his thoughts on last week's Supreme Court decision and the implications of affirmative action for HBCUs. But first, Dr. Ravi, I've got to ask you your take on Jill Scott's rendition of the national anthem. What did you make of it?
Wow. Well, wasn't it beautiful? The beauty of using voice to tell the fullness of the American story and all the ugliness thereof. That certainly was the brutal chattel slavery experience that many of us from African descent, of course, have bloodlines we can trace our heritage to, would not be here if it were not. And for her to, choose to use that platform to render a new rendition of an already racist song, to make it not racist any longer, but to make it one that fully embraces the racial story. I thought it was just a beautiful, poignant moment. Everyone should watch it.
And to share that at, of all places, the Essence Festival. I mean, when I was speaking to Mayor Karen Bass of Los Angeles this past Sunday on my show, More Perfect Union, here on KBLA Talk 1580, I said to her that, outside of, ALC weekend during Congressional Black Caucus, I feel like Essence Festival is one of the largest gatherings of Black folks, not just the Black aunties turning up, right? But Black,
right.
Leaders and advocates and activists across issues, across industries. Are you surprised that Essence has become such a major political touch point for leaders in this country? I mean, just this past weekend, we had Vice President Kamala Harris who was there, and there were, a number of leaders of industry that were there. Are you surprised by that, or do you expect to see a lot more of this in response to the anti-Black rhetoric and anti-Black, political movements afoot in the country?
Well, I think the Essence Fest, is a testament to the power of Black journalism. It is indeed first and foremost a Essence magazine, obviously a venerable role that it has played in the history of American Black journalism, but really global journalism generally, in telling the Black story, and obviously from the story, particularly perspective of African American women. And that is, of course, not surprising that we have become accustomed in Black communities to use these Black gatherings and festivals, everything from the family reunion to church on Sunday or Saturday morning, to these festivals to galvanize ourselves and talk about political issues. It is, in fact, of course, confirmed by a lot of political and social science research that demonstrates that it's in these settings, these Black spaces, in which we actually form our ideologies, our political conceptions, and our willingness or not to engage in political activities such as voting or community activism once we go back home. And I think it's a great venue, therefore, to certainly try to be piercing, as Joe Scott was there, and helping us to reflect on a historic song that means very little to people of African descent if you actually have ever read the second verse, and to turn it around to be one that emboldens our lived experience. And, yeah, Essence is that space. You're absolutely right. One of few, though, sadly remaining, where Blacks can gather and talk about social, cultural, and political issues in safe spaces that allows our diversity of opinions and ideas to flourish and not be in competition with one another.
And so just this past weekend, we devoted most of our show, most of my show, More Perfect Union, to covering, insights and some of the leaders in attendance at the Global Black Economic Forum, which is sort of a sister organization in the Essence family. And so, Essence, as Alfonso David, the president and CEO of Global Black Economic Forum, he says that Essence is sort of the joy side, and the Global Black Economic Forum is sort of the justice side. And so I'm curious as to what your message is as a political scientist, as somebody who has written at length about comparative politics, and you have a book entitled Black Mayors, White Majorities, the balancing act of racial politics. What prescription would you offer to Black elected leaders in this moment? We had a week of consequential decisions coming out of the Supreme Court that in so many ways have reversed the hard fought efforts of generations before us to win freedom, to win liberation, to win equal justice under the law. And I'm curious, as we are all reflecting and considering a whole range of actions to move us forward, what's your message to Black leaders in elected office in this moment?
Wow, what a powerful question. So I am a scholar of political representation, and I often say the weird political scientist in that I'm not only interested in campaigns and elections, but I'm primarily interested in what people do after they get elected. And that's because I'm really interested in representation. How do these elected officials effectively represent us? And so I think it's a two-way street, first of all. I like to encourage my students that government is as good as we make it. And the emphasis there is we. And so it can't just be a one-way relationship when we engage with our elected officials, but they engage us. We also must engage with them because that's how representation is meant to work in the imperfect system that is our democratic republic. And if we choose to not participate in that system for all kinds of righteous reasons, the protest, because we've been oppressed by that same system, et cetera, for generations, that is fine and well and good in our right, but it also comes with consequences. And so our elected officials now, I think, have a real challenge where they need to be able to listen to the multiple constituencies that is the Black community. Not everybody is middle class. We have generations of Black people who are living in poverty, even in Black-led cities that have been led by Black folks for 40 years. And so we have challenges within our own communities that don't always get highlighted by a lot of the Black elected officials who often perhaps, let's say, might be so in tune to the particular districts and their communities and those needs that they may not be as in tune with the diversity of the Black experience as a whole. So I'd encourage Black elected officials, first of all, to start listening to the multiplicity of voices within their Black community itself. If you go to church on Sunday morning, you're going to hear something different than at the club on Saturday night. But those same individuals are going to be people who make up the Black community. And we have to be willing to listen first, which means hold town halls, means go to events that celebrate all kinds of Blackness, the Black retiree community, the disabled community, obviously the LGBTQ plus community, the international expat communities. There's so many ways and visions to understand Blackness, and Black elected officials need to not just highlight, the main issues that might be the bread and butter concerns, but also all the groups within our beautiful Black diaspora. And I think that will help them be better, effective leaders as Black folks themselves, whom, because they are Black, we assume that they have a shared racial experience with us, that therefore will allow them to use that experience to better our interests and our ability to get things done in their respective leadership offices. But it starts by listening to the diversity of the Black experience. I encourage them to do that. And ultimately, finally, it's the budget. if you're not on the budget, if you're not in the agenda, then you really aren't in the game in politics. And so we got to make sure that these politicians aren't just talking a good talk, but that they actually have prioritized within the budgetary power that they have the resources to do what we need them to do on our behalf.
That is a really actionable list of things that we should be, of insights that you just shared with us. And I really love what you're saying when you say government is as good as we make it. Government is as good as we make it. I think sometimes we just expect government to just, do the right thing when nobody's looking, and that's just not how it works. It's not how it's ever worked for us. And I appreciate you and want to double click on this idea of there being multiple constituencies of black folks. That it's not just black middle class folks, to your point. It's not just black church folks, to your point, right? But we are not a monolith. And so, for everybody out there that says I'm rooting for everybody black, I always challenge you and say, well, who's everybody? Is it just everybody who looks like you? Everybody who lives where you live? Who worships where you live? Who loves as you do, right? Who's everybody, right? And so I think these are important questions that we should be asking of one another and that we should be asking certainly of our elected officials. And you're absolutely right. You want to really see people's values in action. Take a look at that budget. Go ahead, do it. Right. I'm also going to throw in sort of a bonus opportunity for folks. And this is riffing off of the conversation we had this morning with Fonz, the co-founder of Spill. There are a lot of people that are leaving Twitter, for example, and trying to find a new home on social media. And so we've been encouraging folks all morning to join the Spill app. And Fonz has blessed us with a special code to get access to the Spill app. If we use the code SPILLMOB, SPILLMOB, we can join the Spill app and be in community with black Twitter folks in exile. We'll put it that way. When we come forward, more with Dr. Perry of Howard University, we want to get his take on last week's Supreme Court decision on affirmative action and whether or not this might be a boon for HBCUs like Howard University, among others. That and more when we come forward. You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Former Vice President Mike Pence is defending his decision to certify the 2020 presidential election results following the Capitol riot. While on the campaign trail in Sioux City, Iowa this week, a woman questioned Pence, claiming he had the constitutional power to block the certification of electoral college results and prevent Joe Biden from becoming president. Pence disrupted her claim, saying the Constitution is clear that he did not have the power to do so. The California Task Force on Reparations wants the state to get rid of interest on late child support for black residents. The state's Reparations Task Force said discriminatory laws have torn black families apart as they are disproportionately affected by child support debt. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hazard listed headed through Lakeview Terrace, taking the drive on the 210 East 210 at Wheatland. Look out for a large metal object in center traffic lanes. Had troubles on the 210 West around Sierra Madre. Looks like that activity is wrapped up. Baldwin Park, the 605 North to the 10 East transition. We had a collision from earlier. That's finally gone from the shoulder there. Long Beach on the 710 North as you get to the 405 South. We're still seeing a stalled vehicle here. That has slowed the drive from at least Anaheim Street. Troubles in the Sepulveda Path, the 405 South Getty to Moraga. Looks like all traffic lanes are stopped as they try to clear a wreck. We're loaded up as far back as Victory.
It's your last chance to shop July 4 savings at Lowe's. Right now, get up to an additional $1,000 off select major kitchen appliances. Lowe's knows savings. Lowe's knows home improvement. Valid through 7/12. Savings vary based on purchase amount. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for details.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
DeMaurice Smith, president of the National Football League Players Association, is calling for the NFL to get rid of the Rooney Rule. The Rooney Rule was implemented 20 years ago with the intent of improving diversity diversity hiring in the NFL, specifically black head coaches. Smith called the Rooney Rule a failure. When the NFL implemented the Rooney Rule in 2003, the league had 2 black head coaches. 20 years later, only 3 of the league's 32 teams have a black head coach entering the 2023 season. Francis Tiafoe, the only black American male competing at Wimbledon, has a second-round match this morning with Dominic Stricker of Switzerland. The 25-year-old Tiafoe is ranked 10th in the world. He's trying to win his first Grand Slam tennis major. The Dodgers wrap up their 4-game series with Pittsburgh tonight. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to K-Drip, where we play all the best classic water-wasting hits like watering your lawn during the hottest time of the day and leaky faucets. They're tunes from another time because now that we face a hotter, drier future, every drop counts. Despite an extremely wet winter, keep using less water, fixing leaks, and reusing indoor water for your garden. Visit SaveOurWater.com for more ways to conserve. Up next, brushing your teeth with the water on. K-Drip.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Maisha Cairo here with a quick recap for my time at JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. There were speakers Ian Dunlap, Damon John, Lynn Richardson, MC Light, Don Kennedy, to name a few. Take a listen to what Justin Grant, Community Development Lead at Chase's Advancing Black Pathway, let's see what he had to say.
So I'm Justin Grant. I lead community development and national partnerships for JP Morgan Chase's Advancing Black Pathway strategy. And so we're focused on strengthening the economic foundation of black communities, and we're making targeted investments in programs like the Advancing Black Wealth Tour to help us get our tools and resources out to the community to drive sustained impact over time.
So when it comes to black and brown people, it sounds like Chase is making it their personal responsibility not only to facilitate these events, but to educate and provide resources. So, Mr. Grant, I have to ask, what does wealth building look like for the individual?
It's home ownership, it's having that freedom to be able to start your own business and create jobs in your community, and it's having that long-term plan towards retirement, having that vision for what you want your life to be, and you have the resources to actually live it.
I'm Maisha Cairo. Thanks for sticking around. That was my recap from Chase's Advancing Black Wealth Tour. First stop was here in LA, and they're taking it national.
We're not for everybody, but we're for everybody. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show here on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for our brother and fearless leader, Tavis Smiley, who is enjoying the day off. I am in the best of company, courtesy of the Mecca, Dr. Ravi Perry, who serves as the Department of Political Science chair. He served as the chair from 2019 to 2022 at Howard University. He is with us today, and this political scientist has a lot to say. And so let's jump into it. Dr. Perry, just last week, the Supreme Court delivered a number of decisions on affirmative action, on LGBTQ rights, among other issues that really fly in the face of very hard-fought progress that we've made, that our parents and grandparents and previous generations have made towards advancing equal justice under the law. I'm curious as to, what are some of your colleagues at the Mecca? What are some of your students, your current students and former students, saying about the decision and its potential impact on HBCUs like Howard?
Well, I think people in general that I have spoken with, colleagues and students alike, are just distressed that this court has done so many things that are really equate to what they consider to be, and I agree, anti-black. in their majority opinions that, to be clear, do all coincide. Whenever they do 6-3 now, it typically coincides with the partisanship that's not supposed to take place in the Supreme Court, and that 6 justices appointed by Republican presidents, these nominated by Republican presidents, were the ones that made these anti-black decisions. And so people are distressed, generally, I think, for their fellow black person collectively. That's what I have heard from both faculty and students here on campus. As it relates to us and other HBCUs, many people have said, and I agree, I do think it potentially can lead to a boom. But booms are only, to be fair to all HBCUs, are only as possible as the capacity to hold the boom. And so we have an opportunity to welcome new faces that might otherwise have gone to some predominantly white institutions. We, of course, welcome that. We are excited to do so. But many HBCUs, in terms of admissions, they're hard to get into already. And there's a long wait list. And, we get 10,000 to 20,000 applicants for 2,000 to 3,000 seats a year at some of the larger schools. And while acceptance rates may be somewhat higher than the elite of the elite schools and some PWI circles, when it comes to the black experience, there's obviously nothing like it. And I expect that many students are going to be distressed about what their experience may be as a black student on a predominantly white campus, and they will then come to places like Howard and other HBCUs seeking the safe haven of our cultural experience that can give you the appropriate conditions to be successful. The point in college is to come here, do well, leave, and go take those skills and improve the world. And I'm excited to see that. I think this decision will affect some HBCUs and our enrollment, and therefore perhaps their financial stability as well, to be able to continue to be more self-sufficient and to build more student resources and to improve the student experience. And so from that end, I actually think it may have, ironically, a net positive effect for HBCUs and black students who attend them.
I certainly hope that is the case, but I want to double click on something you said earlier about how this potential boon to HBCUs, is as good as its capacity, the HBCU's capacity to hold the boon. And, it seems to me that it's about more than just an increase in enrollment. It's about investing in the capacity building efforts of our HBCUs, right? And so, to your point earlier, you get 10,000 to 20,000 students that apply for 2,000 to 3,000 slots at an HBCU, right? Well, what happens to the rest of those students, right? And so, are you learning of any efforts, whether it's at Howard or other HBCUs, they're actually investing in building their capacity in terms of the brick and mortar space that they have, and in terms of the online capabilities that they have, where perhaps, when it comes to these incoming classes, that they can begin to take in more students and to have the capacity to be able to deliver an even better quality of education, of in-classroom instruction, of online instruction, right? That seems to me to be a ripe conversation for us to have right now.
Well, it absolutely is a ripe conversation for us to have right now. I'll also say that HBCUs are only as good as we choose to invest in them in terms of the resources that they can extend to their students. So we have to continue to invest in HBCUs, whether we went to one or not, whether people in our family went or not. If you believe in the black experience and the black story, then HBCUs are that story, and that they need to be invested in accordingly. Churches used to invest millions of dollars in HBCUs. I'm a member of the African Methodist Episcopal Church, AME. We used to invest millions. It's now down to hundreds of thousands. And not just us, but so many other churches have done the same thing, have divested, frankly, in our own universities, and that is a problem that we need to and can collectively solve ourselves. Here at Howard, what I'm very proud of, I have been witness to a huge boon in the efforts of our leadership to ensure that we are meeting the capacity and the demand. Yes, we're renovating dorms, building new ones, but also are ensuring that faculty and staff are getting, the right amounts of pay and benefits that make them be more stable in their positions so that they don't leave and go elsewhere in a competitive higher ed market. And so these are all important, what I consider just stabilizing conditions to ensure that the institution can continue to move on and provide access to students. We've also have seen a huge boon in our technology infrastructure, in terms of our classroom management, in terms of classes online. Pre-pandemic at Howard, 5% of classes were online. And I was department chair at the time, the second largest unit on campus with 1,200 majors, about 50 graduate students. The home of Black Politics of America, which is political science at Howard University. And in that role in 2019, we had to shift to go online quickly in 2 weeks and had 0 classes online at the time. And so getting faculty to adjust was a challenge, getting students to adjust was a challenge, getting the infrastructure up to the standard of having multiple people, multiple users, and online all at the same time was a challenge. But I'm proud of Howard's met that challenge and has exceeded it, and I know many other institutions have as well. But it's been made possible because of a combination of leadership and external support, which is something that I think every institution that's an HBCU needs to continue to invest in. We need genuinely good leadership that understands that the purpose of higher education, it is a process. It is a critical process. It's not a business. Students are not consumers. They're not clients. And we understand that there are 3 constituencies on campuses: staff, administrators, but staff in general, faculty, students as well. Then we are in a position to actually make sure that HBCUs are very, very effective. And so I'm excited to see these changes, but I give a long answer because I think it's important that we really understand the kinds of HBCUs. I have members of my family went to Shorter College, went to Fort Valley, went to Fisk, went to Hampton, all kinds of HBCUs. But they're all different sizes. Some are private, some are public, some are state-funded, some get congressional appropriation like we do at Howard. But they all rely on alumni donations. And alumni donations are low. They're not any lower historically than other donations of other races at other schools. But I do challenge us as Black people to invest in our schools at perhaps higher rates. It's like tipping more than 20%. Maybe we need to start tipping 30, 40, 50% of what we can to ensure that these schools stay active. Mm-hmm. But not only just stay on, but that they thrive. We shouldn't be fine with the schools just keeping the lights on. We shouldn't be satisfied there. We should want to make sure that every student that goes to HBCU thrives. And that, frankly, and so I appeal to listeners to really think about the HBCU in your neighborhood, in your area, closest to you, and or closest to your family, and try to throw them, that chance so that they can continue to invest.
Well, if that is not an HBCU infomercial, I don't know what is. And for all the right reasons, we are enjoying our conversation here with Dr. Ravi Perry. More with him on the Tavis Smiley Show right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Be sure to like and follow Tavis Smiley at The Real Tavis Smiley and get Twitter updates at Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues when we come forward. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, we're Tasha,
Teal, and Euro from KBLA's Lyric Lounge.
Check us out every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Tune in as we break down some of your favorite song lyrics from all genres of music.
From gospel to pop and hip-hop to rock and everything else in between, we cover it all.
So come hang out in the Lyric Lounge with Tasha,
Teal, and Euro every Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. and every Sunday at 6 p.m.
Let the music play.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
and boldly go where no man has gone before.
Boldly taking talk radio where it has never gone before. New vistas, new voices, new views, new visions, new victories. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we're taking public media black.
I'm James Alexander, a proud member of AARP. 1967, I was 17. That spring, my friends, the Barcades, and I made Soulfinger. It was a hit. Number 3 on the charts. That summer, we became the Great Otis Redding's Band. First gig, the famed Apollo. That fall, we toured. That winter found me in a morgue identifying the bodies of my bandmates and Otis Redding. My music and their memories bring me joy. The Barcades, forever.
What would you call a joy that is as solemn as it is sweet and knows no bounds? A joy that's beautifully rooted in soul and resilience. This is Black Joy, a joy that reflects pride and honor despite every challenge. AARP believes the power of Black joy is limitless, and we celebrate this joy supreme. Join us in celebrating Black joy at aarp.org/blackcommunity.
Let's unpack a little bit more with Tavis Smiley. The conversation continues right now.
You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show here on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for Tavis in conversation with Dr. Ravi Perry, professor of political science at Howard University. And we've been talking about the Supreme Court decision on affirmative action, but not through a deficit lens, but mostly through an asset lens. We've been talking about, how HBCUs like Howard are meeting the moment in terms of creating opportunities for higher education for more Black folks, and how they're improving the quality of that education. See, it's not just access to any old education, right? But it's access to quality education, access to quality education in an environment where young people can really thrive, where they can feel safe, where they can be their fully self-actualized selves. And so, Dr. Ravi, you mentioned that it's a very competitive market out there right now for folks in higher education. And, you have been at the Mecca for some time now. What keeps you at the Mecca? And when you see decisions like this come down from the Supreme Court, there are some folks that say, "Wow, maybe we need more, Black professors at PWIs to create space for some of the young people there." Why not a PWI? Why do you continue to stay at the Mecca? And what's your message to other folks in higher ed that may be looking for a university home?
So I've had the PWI experience, and I'm glad you mentioned this because I think it's so important to emphasize. You can be a Black student at a PWI and have a good experience. I want to make sure that is clear. If you come to an HBCU, you will have a different experience, and you have to come to see how amazing that experience is. The cultural resonance is so real and so on fire every day. It makes your learning so much more unique than what you might find at PWI. But I went to the University of Michigan. I went to Brown for my master's and PhD. Before being at Howard in 2019, I worked at 3 other PWIs. Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, where I was one of 4 Black faculty at the time on the whole campus. Then moved to Mississippi State, where I was one of only 2 Black folks in my own department, and moved on to VCU, where I then became elected chair there and was the only Black person in the department there. And I've been at Howard since 2019. I say that to say that you can build a career, you can gain education in PWIs as a Black person, but it's a lot of different kinds of work that you may have to deal with to engage with community, to find your niche, to find your network in these large campuses where it's easy to get lost. I had the benefit of the privilege of having parents that were active in higher ed. My dad was one of the founders of African American and Ethnic Studies, created the Ethnic Studies program at Bowling Green State University in Ohio that still exists to this day, and hosted James Baldwin there in 76 to 81 as a visiting professor. The first time he ever stood in front of a classroom and taught was not at a Harvard or in Morehouse or Howard. It was at Bowling Green State University with my dad's department there. I say that to say I had a privilege in that I understood higher ed going into it, that it was somewhat made it perhaps the PWI experience more comfortable for me naturally because I was familiar with my parents working in Black studies at PWIs. And so I recognized, having taught for 20 years, that many students' experiences are, of course, all unique and all different and might create different challenges for them depending on the type of school they go to. So I encourage students, first of all, to certainly make an HBCU part of your experience, but secondly, to figure out kind of what your real passions and purpose are. And if you find out that a non-HBCU has that kind of a program for you, then, that doesn't mean go there. It maybe mean work within your HBCU to see if you can develop that program. Here at Howard, we've developed many new programs, online education, leadership studies programs, MBA programs, social work programs. Many of these are online now that students can take part in. And like Morehouse and other HBCUs, we're really working on trying to bring back students who didn't finish their degrees to come back to finish their degrees, to enroll in accelerated programs that allow you to go back into your career and be an active executive professional and do it with less cost and less time. And so we're encouraging people to do that, to come back home to the Mecca and to do or to other HBCUs and finish those degrees because, as your point, it is a competitive marketplace out there. And I tell my students that you have to not only be great, you have to then be great enough to compete against other people who are also great.
That's right. When we come forward more with Dr. Ravi Perry, professor of political science at Howard University. Dr. Ravi, I want to ask you, a lot's been said about the misinterpretation or misapplication that folks in corporate America might have related to the Supreme Court decision. I wonder if you have the same suspicions of a misapplication or misinterpretation in higher education. More with Dr. Ravi Perry when we come forward. You're listening to the Tavis Smiley Show right here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
Gotta stay fresh, my house shot with a rest bar,
Have you visited us online for the grand opening of KBLA.store? For the best in new merch, gift ideas, books, media, and more, log on to KBLA.store. Be sure to check out our KBLA team favorites at KBLA.store today. That's KBLA.store for all the official merch on your favorite talk radio station, KBLA Talk 1580. JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California and around the country to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. As part of JP Morgan Chase commitment, they are taking action to help improve financial wealth and access to banking in the Black community, helping more people open low-cost checking and savings accounts, hosting community seminars with supporting Black-led institutions by building awareness about financial investments, hiring community managers, and opening community center branches like Crenshaw, Inglewood, and downtown LA. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Get the tools to help reach your financial goals. Visit today, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity. Again, jpmorganchase.com/racial equity.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the Evan-On, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Conversations that matter. You're listening to Tavis Smiley on KBLA Talk 1580.
In our remaining moments with Dr. Ravi Perry, professor of political science at the Mecca at Howard University, I want to get his quick take on any concerns that you might have related to the Supreme Court decision. There are a lot of folks that are engaged in this war against all things diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so, a lot of folks across industry are on high alert. I assume that you believe that high alert is warranted. How do you see this sort of emboldened anti-diversity, equity, and inclusion movement potentially negatively impacting HBCUs like Howard if we're not attentive?
So 3 quick things. 1, HBCUs need to develop presidential-level chief diversity officer positions. My hope is that Howard perhaps might become one of the first to do so. But just because we are diverse does not mean that we do inclusion and diversity very well all the time, always either. I can guarantee as a gay man on campus, I've been on many campuses, there's always work to do. I've seen the same thing with international students, with women's issues, with so many challenges that even in our own house, we have diversity and inclusion work to do. And I would love to see more HBCUs actually do that deliberately from an administrative top-level position that, of course, engages all people and all stakeholders in an equitable and fair way, but that makes it a priority, the point is, of the president, that we need to not only just be inclusive as we are every day in terms of we are Black history. We are beautifully Black and so many variations of the diaspora, but we also, too, can work on our own lack of inclusion in so many spaces. First thing. Secondly, I think that we can remember that elections matter. What happened in this Supreme Court decision happened because of the November 2016 election. I certainly want to impress upon listeners that voting matters. You may be disillusioned. You may be disaffected. You may not feel that the Democratic Party, which 9% of African Americans identify with, represents your interests the best or always. You may not like candidate so-and-so, but you have the citizenship right to vote, and your ability to exercise that right is the most powerful way you can, in fact, express your discontent or content with the American political system. You get a chance to do that likely every year where you live in a local, state, or federal election. And when we abdicate that, we abdicate our own power.
That's right. When we abdicate our own power. Thank you for reminding us of the power that we possess. Our thanks to you, Dr. Ravi Perry, professor of political science at Howard University, also the author of so many things, but among them, I've really been intrigued with your book on Black mayors, white majorities, the balancing act of racial politics. But there's so much that you've written out there that folks can check out. Where can they go to follow you quickly?
My website, raviperry.com.
There it is. Plain and simple. Our thanks to Dr. Ravi Perry and all of our guests today. Tavis Smiley will be right back here on Monday, but be sure to check out the best of Tavis Smiley on Friday. That's tomorrow. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. Listen for me this Sunday on A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA Talk 1580 on the 10s. Until next time, stay lifted, y'all.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.